Once you take your little old machine and you connect it to the network, it could fulfill a wide variety of very important roles for you in your little infrastructure. Maybe it's your small office, home office, or maybe it's a much larger enterprise-based infrastructure. In this nugget, we'll talk about exactly what roles your machine might be able to fulfill. Maybe you installed some type of server operating system. We don't really get into that heavy in A+, but realize there's versions of Ubuntu and the Mac and Windows and Red Hat, you name it, that are geared towards a server-based operating system, and they'll most likely have web server software built right in. Now, wait a minute. You're planning on hosting a website for the public internet? No, not necessarily. You could with such a server, but what happens a lot these days is we do a little private cloud work. We do a little web server inside the company that's only accessible inside the company. We used to call this an intranet. Nowadays, we'd call it like private cloud services because it sounds fancier. So we can have various services, including web, only available in-house. I bring us here to the Apache website because this is an HTTP web server that you can add to just about any operating system these days. And this would be one way to go if you didn't have web server capabilities built into your system. In various operating systems today, you can go to your resources, you can right-click them, you can access the properties, and you can share them. When you do this, you're creating a file server or a print server. File server refers to you storing files that others access over the network, while print server obviously refers to those other people on the network printing to your printer. How rude. So these services are built right in now to operating systems as well, even our client operating systems, like a copy of Windows 10 Home Edition or whatever they call it these days. So those are the hugely popular ones that are very common today, web servers, file servers, print servers. But if you set up a server on your network and you're giving everyone their IP address information, well, you have what's called a dynamic host configuration protocol system. And you know all about this from our first A+ course, the 901 course. Just like if you set up a server that is handing out everyone the fully qualified domain name for where they want to go, like they're trying to go to cbtnuggets.com in their browser, and you give them the IP address that coordinates to that address, you just set up a DNS server. One that we really haven't talked about too much is a proxy server, and they're really pretty cool. What you do is you put a server, a networked host, at the edge of your network. So let's say this is on this side, we have ABC company, and there is 50 machines inside here. There's this proxy server that sits at the edge, and here's our World Wide Web. This proxy server will go ahead and it will take requests to get to internet resources, and it will proxy them. It will make those requests on behalf of these clients. One thing that we can have the proxy do is check to see if they're allowed to go there. Something else cool that the proxy server can do is it can cache the information from the World Wide Web, and it can deliver that very quickly and efficiently to clients on the inside, because inevitably everyone's going to want to go to a certain site that has to do with that company's business, like, ESPN and eBay and all those important sites. So you get the idea. The proxy server can act as a buffer in between the internal network and the external network. A lot of times proxy servers will break certain cloud-based services. So you'll install something and you'll see during the installation, it'll say, if your company uses a proxy server, input that address information now, because obviously this is not a real typical thing, having this buffer between those two areas. Maybe you have a network host that provides mail services for the network. The Microsoft version of this is Exchange. So we install Exchange services on the device, and now it is a mail server for the delivery of email. Finally, you might have a device right here like you would find the proxy server between your network and the rest of the world, and maybe what its job is to authenticate people that are trying to get into your network, to literally ask them for a username and password so that they can access the protected portion of your network environment. Now, some of the coolest network hosts you can set up for your enterprise today are in this category. It's Unified Threat Management, or Intrusion Detection Services, or Intrusion Prevention Services. Unified Threat Management works typically with these other two. It is seeking out definitions that people have globally come up with that would signify network attacks. So unified threat management is like, hey, everybody, let's get a big unified database together to identify icky stuff. Icky is the technical term that might happen to us on the network. Intrusion detection systems would alert you, oh my goodness, over in this portion of the network, there's an attack that's trying to come in. That's not as exciting as prevention, is it? I don't know why I just scratched that out. I was trying to circle it. Intrusion prevention systems will go one step further. They'll not only alert you, but they will prevent these attacks from entering your network infrastructure. So we'll get intense into network security in this course. As you know, it has its own little cluster of nuggets, but I wanted you to realize valuable services we can install on the network with our hosts are in this security category. Now, maybe you've got your network host set up to deliver legacy services to clients out there. Things that are old. That's what legacy services mean. A great story that I remember about this was the company Novell that had NetWare. They were really competing with Microsoft for file and print services. And there was this old Novell NetWare server that had literally been put behind a wall. They had remodeled and they didn't move the thing, and it was behind a wall in the company, and it was still serving up those file and print services for the entire enterprise. So funny. This was detected by someone that came into the company and was doing some packet sniffing, and they said, why do you have a Novell NetWare file and print server serving up stuff? So what a perfect example of legacy services that might be delivered. This is just one example that comes to mind. Your own organization might have some older stuff that they keep running on the network for very specific purposes. Oh my gosh, you know this stuff. Time to prove it. What network host can prevent an attack from entering your network? Is that IDS, UTM, DHCP server, or IPS? All right. Well, DHCP servers don't really prevent attacks from entering our network. They would actually facilitate that. Yeah, they give out IP address information that would allow someone to come into our network environment, so they're definitely off the list. It's interesting because all three of these are security things. Unified threat management can use that database to identify attacks. Intrusion detection systems can identify attacks. Aha, it's the P in IPS that does it for us. Intrusion prevention systems can prevent an attack. I probably made this too easy by using the word prevent there. Maybe the CompTIA exam writer would be a little trickier, but the key here really was identifying IDS from UTM from IPS. So keep your little system off the network, and there's not a lot that it can do. Maybe solitaire. Just kidding. But if we connect our device to the network, oh my goodness, there's so much it can do for us. And in this nugget, we reviewed that from web services to file services to print services to DHCP services to incredible security services like UTM, IDS, and IPS. I sure hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.